This won't be that long. I got a couple of cool video clips. How many of y'all like the movie Dumb and Dumber? Y'all seen that? It's one of my favorites. It's from like 1994, but I'm sure everybody has seen it. That joint is hilarious. So I got a video clip from that. And how many of y'all seen Star Wars? Yeah. I got a clip from that. The text that we're going to be reading from is from 1 Samuel. It's called A Bad Choice. Now, I've made a lot of bad decisions in my time. Some of these bad decisions have cost me something. Some of these choices have involved friends. Some of these choices have involved things I've done. Some of these decisions have been over places I've gone. Some of these bad choices involved lying. Some of these bad decisions have involved all of these things. So, I read a story about a bad choice that a teen made as I was preparing this message, and I thought it was pretty funny. There was a time, believe it or not, when people believed that going to the movies was a bad thing, and that Christians shouldn't do it. Why they thought this, I don't know, and I personally don't believe this, but some people still do. Some parents used to think that going to the movies was a bad thing. Well, there was this story about a teen lying about going to the mall with his friends and really going to see the movie Independence Day, and then getting grounded and losing his license to drive. It was a bad decision, but not because going to the movies was wrong, but because he didn't honor and obey his parents. And his bad decision cost him something that he loved to do, his ticket to ride. So, speaking of bad decisions and losing your ride, if you hit the lights, y'all watch this.
Mountains to be a little rockier than this.
I was thinking the same thing.
I'm only human, Harry! Anybody can make a mistake. Come on! Stop being a baby! So we backtracked a tad. Tad? A tad, Lloyd? You drove almost a sixth of the way across the country in the wrong direction! Now we don't have enough money to get to Aspen. We don't have enough money to get home. We don't have enough money to eat. We don't have enough money to sleep.
So what?
It's not going to do us any good to sit here whining about it. We're in a hole. We're just going to have to dig ourselves out.
Okay, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Where are you going?
Home. I'm walking home.
Oh, well, pardon me, Mr. Perfect. I guess I forgot that you never ever make a mistake.
Got room for one more if you still want to go to Aspen. Where did you find that? Some kid back in town. Traded the van for it straight up. I can get 70 miles to the gallon on this hawk. You know, Lloyd, just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber, you go and do something like this. And totally redeem yourself! You wanna go to Aspen? Oh yeah! Okay, let's go, buddy!
That's all I know.
That's all we got. Lights? Alright.
Just get me.
So, maybe you've made a bad decision before and lost something because of it. Maybe your poor choices have cost you something like money, or moving on to the next grade, or your relationship with friends or family, or your virginity, or your time. Bad decisions generally cost us something. I believe that's one of your fill-ins. Bad decisions generally cost us something. So, the question you may ask is, how can we avoid making bad decisions? Just as we can know if we're making a good decision, motivated by love rather than selfishness, based upon the evidence that God gives us, we can know if we're making a bad decision. So the thing that we're going to be looking at is how bad decisions are often motivated by fear. Bad decisions are often motivated by fear. And like I said, we're going to be reading from 1 Samuel. But let's talk about what was going on for a second here before I read. The situation. Saul, the current king of Israel, had put together an army to fight against their enemy, the Philistines. But the Israelites were outnumbered and outgunned. The Israelites were scared that they wouldn't be able to fight the battle and win. Samuel, he was a prophet of God, and he had told Saul to wait for him to come to bless the army so that God's hand would fight for them. So I'm going to read my new Bible here that I got for Christmas. 1 Samuel chapter 10 and verse 8. This should be up here on the screen for you guys to follow along. But here's what it says. You shall go down before me to Gilgal, and surely I will come down to you to offer burnt offerings and make sacrifices of peace offerings. 7 days you shall wait till I come to you and show you what you should do. So Saul goes to Gilgal to meet the Philistines for battle, and wait for Samuel to come and ask God to bless Israel with a victory over the Philistines. So let's pick it up here in 1 Samuel 13:8. That'll be up there on the screen as well. 1 Samuel 13:8 says, Then he waited 7 days, according to the time set by Samuel. But Samuel did not come to Gilgal, and the people were scattered from him. It had been 7 days that they'd been waiting for Samuel. And maybe he forgot, or he was sick, or dead. Who knew where Samuel was, or why he was late in coming? But Saul began to be afraid because the army started abandoning him. So Saul decides to take action into his own hands. So let's look at 1 Samuel 13, 9 through 10. Let's go to verse 9. So Saul said, "Bring burnt offering and peace offerings here to me." And he offered the burnt offering. Now it happened as soon as he had finished presenting the burnt offering that Samuel came, and Saul went out to meet him that he might greet him. Saul does what Samuel was supposed to do. If you remember from earlier on that I read in verse 10, chapter 10, verse 8, Samuel says this is what he was going to do, but Saul takes it into his own hands and he does what Samuel was supposed to do. Saul overstepped his bounds because of fear that he had of losing his army. So he had a fear of losing his army, so he overstepped his boundaries and he did what Samuel had said he was going to do. So let's move down to verse 11. And Samuel said, "What have you done?" Saul said, "When I saw that the people were scattered from me, and that you did not come within the days appointed, and that the Philistines gathered together at Michmash, then I said, the Philistines will come down on me at Gilgal, and I have not made supplication to the Lord. Therefore I felt compelled and offered a burnt offering." So Saul felt like he had to do something, in other words. The army was abandoning him. He was losing the support of the troops. How could he win if the army had left? If all the army had left, how would he be able to win? So he was really afraid that everyone would leave him and that the Philistines would win. Bigger podium here. All right. Saul's position looks bad. If the Philistines win, Israel will be their slaves. And they would probably kill Saul and his whole family. So he had to do something, and so his fear caused him to make a bad, foolish choice. Let's read on in verse 13. And Samuel said to Saul, "You have done foolishly. You have not kept the commandment of the Lord your God, which he commanded you. For now the Lord would have established your kingdom over Israel forever." So you see, Saul, he made a foolish and a bad choice based on fear. Decisions based on fear often lead to problems like Saul's did in our own lives. If we make a decision based on fear, it's going to lead to a problem just like Saul's did. For example, and this is a big one that I see with a lot of teenage students, this first one here. You compromise your standard because of fear of losing your friends or popularity. Right? I mean, y'all hear me on that? You compromise your standard. When you're at school, you're a Christian, right? You're a follower of Christ. You come to church, you claim to be a follower of Christ. But when you're at school, there's so much, all this peer pressure and all this temptation to want to be cool that you compromise your standard. Because you're like, man, if I represent Christ to the fullest, then they're not going to be my friends. I'm going to lose my popularity. That happens a lot, man. I've seen time and time again in Rich Manor, a couple of cats, 4 or 5 different cats, man, that if they were to make a complete turnaround and begin serving Christ, man, their whole squad would follow after them. And these guys got 20 or 30 friends that, they throw house parties and everything else. But if they were to make a complete turnaround, I believe they have so much pull and so much leadership that they don't even realize. They got all these cats following after them because they're cool. They're cool cats. But you're not going to lose your coolness by saying, yo, I'm making a change and I'm serving God. You know what's going to happen? Those people are going to follow after you as well because they've been doing it for so long already.